So thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Renee Hustling from City Center Arts, and we are an art gallery in downtown Muskegon. We're located at the Century Club building, which is 356 West Western Avenue. So stop in. Julie is one of our featured artists this show, so stop in and see her work. You'll see some of it tonight, but I encourage you, it's not like seeing it in person. So please stop in. So tonight we have Julie Westmaas, who is our featured artist, as I mentioned. She is coming to us from her studio. So I'm sure she may take us around her studio. But Julie, if you want to go ahead and get started, and I'll prompt you with some questions. And my first question is, talk about your art journey. Go back as far as you want to. And how did you get where you're at today with your artwork?
Oh, well, it's been a long journey because I'm not a young chick. But I remember, being encouraged to be creative from a very young age, and that is one of the reasons for that is because I have very creative parents, and they both encouraged me to, explore things in the art world. My mother likes to tell this story, but she passed away this past August, so I will honor her and tell this story. It's a little embarrassing, but she would tell people that she was on the phone one day, and I was probably 3 or 4 years old and sitting on the kitchen floor with a bowl of pudding, and I started to paint the refrigerator door with it, and she just let me go. That was her story about my start. So anyway, I in a little bit later on, I became very fascinated with fabric, along with, just loving art and paint and all of that. But when I really started to get a passion was, I remember there was a piece of fabric in our home, and I don't know where it came from, but I was fascinated with it. And I actually took and pinned it on myself to make a skirt, and, with pins. I think my mom was probably horrified that I was going to go out of the house with that on. But anyway, so she recognized it and put me in 4-H sewing, and I fell in love with that. I mean, I made my clothes all through high school, but I still loved art. I still had a very love for creative and the other things too. Painting, I took a lot of art in high school, and one year she was my art teacher in high school, my mother. That was very interesting. But anyway, so I started art classes in college, and one of my very first art classes, the teacher, it was like a 101. We did a lot of different things in there. And one of the things that we did was batik. We actually made batik fabric. And oh wow, I fell in love with that. And I teach batik now at different places. I've taught it at Lakeshore Sewing, and Fremont Arts Place, a couple of places, and hopefully someday maybe we can have a class at City Center Arts. That would be really fun. But be ready for a mess. It's pretty messy. Yeah, it's really fun. So I did a lot of batik on my own after that. I still have a couple of those pieces that are over 40 years old hanging in my home. Anyway, I I did a lot of different things, painting on fabric, and continued to sew, through my 20s and 30s. And then about 6 years ago, I got a job at Lakeshore Sewing and met some very avid quilters. And one of which really encouraged me. She saw my artistic side, and she encouraged me to try some things in art quilting. One of the first art quilts I did was actually a portrait of my daughter and son-in-law. And I think you can find that one on my Facebook page. But after that, I just kind of fell in love with it. I just kind of kept going. And now, I did some painting on fabric too, along with the art quilting. I kind of incorporated those things. So it's an ongoing process now, of just learning even more things, incorporating weaving. I've been doing some jewelry, fabric jewelry. I guess, it just keeps expanding and growing, which is so fun. And I really, after this COVID is done, I would really like to get back into teaching, because I was teaching, quite a few classes at Lakeshore. I did some fabric bowl classes, some art quilt classes, teaching how to take a photograph and, turn that into an art quilt. So yeah, I guess that's a short version.
Okay. So talking about all the different things that you've done, and we're going to view some of your work, but what inspires you to start creating a piece? Is there, I think you take photographs of things, but and then end up making something out of that. But what really triggers you to start working on a piece? Do you know that? Do you feel that? Or
Yes, I do. In fact, even what I'm working on this today, this crumb quilting thing, I guess that inspired me to see somebody else, doing it and having fun doing that. A lot of time, it is about having fun for me. And that's, when I teach, I like, that's one of the first things I say to people is, this is for fun, because when I teach, people want to be there. It's not like, a class of kids that, are stuck in a high school classroom. But most of the time, people do have fun, and I guess that inspires me. Something that, if it was too difficult or too, I'm not a person that likes, I tried counted cross stitch. Yeah, too many numbers. I love fiber arts, and my mother-in-law did that, but and she did a beautiful job. But I get, and nature inspires me. I love, the colors in nature. Like you said, my photography, I love taking pictures. Textures are a big thing. Textures in nature, I love. I had, when I make an art quilt, this has something to do with your question in a way. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking that inspired me. I had when I make an art quilt, when I'm preparing it to be framed, I have to trim the ends off sometimes. And I save everything because I don't know, I just do that. I don't throw a lot of things away. If it's really, really tiny, yeah. But so I saved those ends and they were already quilted. I mean, the pieces were fully, quilted, just ends from my quilt. So I took those and I actually sewed them together. There's 5 different art quilts ends in this piece. I'll bring it over. So it's not finished, but and the funny thing is that you can turn it upside down and it looks like a different landscape. But that's the kind of thing that inspires me, is even just something, laying around. I'll come down here, I've got a lot of things around and pictures hanging, and I've got one of my dad's paintings on the wall over there. I mean, just those things inspire me. My husband, he's very supportive. He inspires me. Sometimes he'll say, "You got to do something with that photo." He'll tell me that I need to, that was the eagle. He kept saying, "Got to do that eagle." That was in our tree last spring. And I went out and took a picture of that eagle. So, yeah, those are the things. Just happy, fun. That's a big part of it. Just anything that might make myself or someone else, happy, inspired. I like to inspire other people too.
Great. So my next question is, so once you have an idea on creating something, what kind of process, even if it's just in your head, what kind of process do you go through to plan something out? Or is it all by accident?
That's a very good question. It could be both. I mean, some of my pieces are very planned out. I have I make a pattern from the photo. For example, this here, I don't know if you can see this. This is from my eagle. It's almost like a poster that there's an app that you can put a picture and you can make it as big as you want, and then your printer will print it out in pieces, on regular printer paper, and then you can tape it together, and that was actually my pattern for that piece. So then I take, and I trace it out on parchment paper, and then I put fusibles on, and it's a process. I'm generalizing. That is a very kind of more, what's the word I'm looking for? Planned piece. When I work from a photo, it's fun, and I like to choose the different fabrics, and it's like painting. But there's other pieces too that are more like fly by the seat of my pants, like this one.
That looks
and
like these cool.
Like these blocks too. And then there's a piece at the gallery that has different, it looks like a ladder, and it's got different pieces on it. The pieces for that were more fly by this. I mean, they were just abstract, kind of just design. So it just, if it's a picture, it's a little more planned. I mean, there's parts of it that, I kind of go crazy with in the picture, but yeah, so both, I guess, there's sometimes when more planned. I have so many products and mediums that, my thread, I have my fabrics in bins, my fabric scraps in bins, some of them according to, with the bigger pieces, according to color. I have different paint, fabric paints and fabric markers that I can use to change colors. There's so many, I have so many colored cutters and scissors, sewing machines.
How many sewing machines do you have?
Oh, well, that I use regularly too.
Okay.
But I have a felting machine, and I have an old Kenmore. It's like, I actually have two old Kenmores. One is a in a cabinet. It's upstairs, and I use it occasionally. And my other Kenmore, I use if my Bernina is on the blank, or it's in the shop, because that's my Bernina is the one I use all the time, and it needs maintenance.
Hopefully not for too long.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But my old Kenmores were pretty good. And then, so I think that's it for now.
Okay. Do we want to jump in and start looking at some of your work?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me get my screen up here. Hopefully you can see that. All right, I'm going to advance to the first, hopefully. Let's make sure it doesn't want to move here. There we go. There.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about it?
If you want to.
Okay. That was a total experiment, and I don't know. It was one of those that in the middle of the night, thinking, oh, I could do, something like that. And what it is it's 3 different panels on tulle, hanging from this little frame that I made that hangs on the wall. And so it's kind of 3D, like they're 3 different pieces, and it's just a tree with like a meadow in the background, and a sky is the last panel in the back. So it was, and it's all made of tiny little pieces of fabric, almost like what I did was I put the fabric on my cutting table, and I just took a rotary cutter and cut them into tiny little pieces and then fused them all together. So, and then cut them, shape. Yeah. Oh, there he is. That one, you can go back on my Facebook page if you want and look at that. There's, I think, 14 or 15 different hidden images in there. Oh. Yeah. This one is mostly almost a whole cloth. The only piece that's sewn on are the rocks on the bottom. It was done from a drawing that I did on a small piece of drawing paper, and then I did the same thing as I did with my eagle. I took my drawing and copied it, and then sent it through the app and made it bigger, and then I just painted it mostly, and then quilted over the painting. This one, yeah, this is a vase. It's just a vessel that I had an idea for with different color. It's actually on the other side, they're all complementary colors on each side. This is a photo that I took of a orchid, and I actually went on an app to color it in different ways, and then I printed those on printer fabric, and then quilted it and thread painted, and then put them all together with a background.
And isn't this the one that your husband really likes and he won't let you sell?
Right. And you know, it's really odd because usually he likes the things that are a little more like the eagle. You know, but he likes the colors. I think the colors are attractive to him. Excuse me. This was actually, you know what? This was the first portrait that I did. That one of my daughter and son-in-law, I think that was the second one. I forgot. But anyway, this is a photograph of my daughter. She was looking down, it was one of the first selfies that people, you know, she was looking at the camera, so she was looking down. But it's quite abstract, really, how it turned out. This one is another abstract that I took a lot of little scraps from the masks that I made during COVID. I don't know, I think I made about 200 around there or so, and just had all these neat little scraps. And you can see some salvaged edges in there. But yeah, then I just kind of stuck them all together, and that was one of those fly by the seat of my pants pieces. That was fun. This is a local picture that I took locally up in Whitehall, or Montague actually. It's the street that this was on is called Indian Point. So that was the name of my photo, or name of my piece. This is this was another thing that kind of in the night thinking about, I don't know why, but it's a prayer shawl. And it's from I think it's Ezekiel. But it depicts I will make your a heart of flesh from your heart of stone. That's basically where it came from, which was has a lot of meaning for me spiritually. So I had this old blanket that I love the color of, and just cut it in, you know, made a like this shawl. It's like applique and quilting. My little dog, my little dachshund, she's she went over the Rainbow Bridge a couple of years ago. That's my little Casey. Miss her. This was just I started out really as an experiment with Shiva sticks. They're an oil paint stick. And they're almost like a crayon, but they're really good on fabric because they are permanent. You can use them on fabric and literally wash the fabric and they will stay put. You know, they won't fade or anything like that. So what I did was, and they're very oily, so I took rubbing plates, you know, texture plates, and it was on white fabric, to begin with. And then I sprayed it with dye after I was all done. So it was almost like like a resist, like a batik, but not with the hot wax, but it worked really well. The white part you couldn't even see before I put the dye, sprayed the dye on there. So it's like, when you're in art class in school, kids do this. They use the crayon and then they paint the watercolor over and then it comes out. That's what it was like. This was another in the middle of the night. When I was painting the lighthouse, I had extra paint left over, so I had another piece of fabric on the side that I was just kind of making, with the leftover paint. I didn't want to waste the paint, so I painted another piece of fabric. So that was sitting there for a little while. I was looking through my photographs and I found a photograph of a tree that I really liked. So I thought, okay, I'll put the tree over, this colorful fabric that looked like a sunset or sunrise. And then I thought, well, it needs something else. And so what I did is I thought about land in back of it. And then for some reason I thought, well, I would use my face or my profile as the hills in the back. I think you could probably see the eye and the nose if you turn it the other way. So that's where that came from. It was just one of those idea things. This is just a seascape that I did for my daughter and son-in-law's wedding. They had a beach wedding in Florida, and I did this. It's quite large. It was kind of the backdrop for their table, with the card table and the guest book. So it was the backdrop. But it's a lot of different. The shells you see in there are actually cut from my old kitchen my old bathroom curtains. This just started out as a bunch of scraps, and I started putting them on the fusible wash away stabilizer, and I wanted to experiment with that. With more art quilting. I had used it in some embroidery. My machine does embroidery, and I've used it in that, but I wanted to experiment with it. And so I just started putting pieces of fabric on the wash away and stitched over it, and came out looking like, I started putting the pieces of on there, not really planning to do a flower, but it ended up a flower. This one is definitely, you know, more planned. It's stencil, actually. I cut some stencils of leaves and then used a fabric pastels, and then spray dyed again the different where it looks like watercolor. I spray dyed around the leaves, and then there is some tulle in the petals that I stitched over the cotton. This was, we have fish. We our only pets right now are fish. I guess, you know, they entertain us. We entertain easily, I guess, but I guess I just was thinking about my fish, and I had been doing, you know, the bowls and the vases, and just had an idea that maybe I could do something more than a bowl and a vase, and shape it into a creature. And I'd love to do more of it. I think it would be fun to do different nature animals in this manner. This was from a photograph, South Bend, south of South Bend, Indiana. In fact, we saw it when we went to Florida. My husband pulled off the side of the freeway. I said, there it is. But the sky was what really caught my eye when I took that picture. Yeah, and the trees in back were fascinating to me. This is my mother's hands holding a white rose, the first black and white art quilt that I'd done, and it was actually, I think, the hardest. It was definitely very planned, and it was definitely not a simple piece. This is Audrey Hepburn. It's done from a photograph that was taken by a photographer in Universal Studios. It is not, it's the photograph, I won't sell this piece because of that. It is my piece. I just wanted to do a portrait, and I saw this photo and I just fell in love with it. I just love her character, and I love Audrey Hepburn. So I just think she was an amazing woman. And so I did this for myself.
Yes, I just watched, she has there's a movie on Netflix right now on her, and I didn't know much about her, and I watched that and I'm like, wow.
I saw it too.
So,
I just watched
yeah.
it a couple days ago.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah. So I thought of a couple other questions though that I wanted to ask you. Do you have a feel for how much time you spend on each piece that you create? Do you keep track of that? Do you does it matter? Do you know, I mean, I would think that as an artist, you'd want to keep track of that so you know, how much do I price things at,
Yeah.
and
I think I'm getting a better feel for it. A bigger piece, and it depends too. I mean, sometimes like the eagle, didn't take me as long as some smaller pieces, because of the way it went together. I can't explain that, but sometimes when it's a bigger piece, you got bigger pieces of fabric. It's not as detailed. So yeah, it can vary, and it doesn't matter what size. But yeah, I'm gonna say that, like the fox I did, it was a pretty big piece, and that was very detailed. That was a couple years ago, and that was probably, I'm gonna say that took me, I mean, month-wise, it was about 4 months to do. And when I first started it, I wasn't working on it, but near the end, I was working on it every day. So I'm going to say like 200 plus hours. I mean, from start to finish,
wow.
a lot. That was a lot. But something like this, something like this. Let's see if I can see myself here because I can't see. But let's see. Oh, there I am. This was quick because I had already, was already quilted, so it was pretty quick. I just stitched all those pieces together and did a little bit of extra quilting on it, but it didn't take very, maybe 8 hours or 8 to 10 hours on that, from planning to end. So yeah, it varies a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Another question I have, I know you do commission pieces. How do you work with someone when they, do they either see one of your pieces and want something exactly like that or similar? Or do you ever work with anyone that's like from the very start and maybe they have a vision, but there's nothing to look at, maybe a photograph. So how do you go through the process of working with someone to make them a personal piece?
That's a really good question. I did have a commission. It was wonderful. I learned so much. And I must have a gazillion photos from start to finish on that piece. I kept very close contact with my client. And there were, they loved that, they would send me pictures. It was a photograph from a kind of a conglomeration of photographs of landscape. And so they sent me a lot of different photos of pieces of that. So putting that together with them, it was really interesting, and a different creative process, but very, what do I want to say? It taught me a lot. And then my eagle, I was in the process of making it. It wasn't really a commission, but it kind of became that, and that was okay. I hadn't even stitched it yet. I hadn't even had all the pieces, and I showed it to someone. This is what I'm working on, and they said, "Don't sell it." I want it.
I want that.
So that was like, so So then I was, then I was showing her, the process after that, it looks like this now. And speak now or forever hold your peace. you know? But I there might be a little bit of to be transparent, a little bit of the creative process not really being interrupted. I don't think that, because most people that I guess like my work as much as to ask me for a commission or hire me for a commission, I guess like my work enough to hopefully trust, what I'm going to be doing. But I do, I like to keep that communication open.
Okay. Kind of the last question that I have is, where do you want to take your art in the future? Do you have any big vision of, where you want to be with it in say 5 years, 3 years, anytime in the future?
I think I just keep plodding along the way. I mean, I don't want it to become, I want to keep it fun. I don't want to, I don't want to push things. In fact, I was just thinking, doing this, what I'm doing today, thinking I could do this for a little bit, instead of, just kind of taking a little break. And then, along the way, I know I'll get more ideas. I know, that will come. In fact, I have them now, but I just, I guess I have to say, I've always wanted to do more artwork. I've always wanted to, make it kind of a thing where I could do it daily. I love doing that, but it didn't really happen where I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. It happened more like, it kind of landed in my lap, sort of. I wasn't really looking for that, even though I thought it would be fun to do. But it just it kind of sought me out, I guess. I had very blessed journey with that. So yeah, that was very, very sweet.
And congratulations are in order. Julie has a piece at the West Michigan Art Competition over in Lowell. She's got, tell us about the piece you have over there.
That actually was the barn.
Okay.
It's the barn. Yeah. So yeah, you saw that one. That's the barn. South Bend.
Any parting thoughts that you have?
No, I not really. I just I really appreciate, you doing this. It's been really good for me to think about, the questions that you've asked. It helps me, focus on some things that, I could grow on. And so yeah, that's basically, I just want to have fun. Girls just want to have fun.
Good. Nothing wrong with that. So,
I just want to say, don't wear black in your sewing studio. I for some reason I put black today, and I like look at you. It's like, no, there's just like threads everywhere. I mean,
kind of like pet hair, huh?
Yeah, they would be there if I had, other clothes on, but they really show up.
Uh, I'm sure that's part of the fun, though.
Oh,
So Melanie, did you have any questions for Julie?
I just think you're really talented. You seem to have evolved quite organically with your sewing and your fabrics. And the one of your daughter, the colours in that, the first thing I thought when I saw it was Woodland Nymph.
the which one?
You know the selfie of your daughter?
Oh, my daughter.
And with the colours, when I saw it, the first thing that came to my mind, because obviously I don't know your daughter, was Woodland Nymph, you know, like stream woodland nymph.
She actually, that makes a lot of sense because I thank you for pointing that out, because she absolutely loved the outdoors, and she was kind of like, in fact, my mom used to call her a little sprite. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I like that because she and my other daughter actually dresses sometimes like she's got the ear, some ears that she puts on. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. And like I said, stop down and see Julie's work. Besides her work at our gallery, she also has work, I believe, in the Muskegon Museum of Art. At least occasionally, I know you do. So, and where else can people find your work, Julie?
I do have some things intermittently at Fremont Arts Place. There might be still some things there. In fact, I need to get with them and see what they might need. Well, the Lowell. And then this past holiday, I was invited to do a gallery uptown in Grand Haven, or that's over with now, but there may be an upcoming fiber art show there in August.
Okay.
Little bird.
Well, we'll be sure to post the dates on that when we find out. So, okay, with that, we'll let you get on to your evening and do some more creating there, Julie. And we appreciate your time tonight. And we'll have this posted out on our YouTube channel so you can share it with others too. So thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Night.
thank you. Bye.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.